I can understand it.
Okay, here's another question that's reduced to writing. What action is being taken to reduce the prison population? There must be programs that keep minorities out of prison and court before they can even get their first offense. For those who are fatherless, there must be action taken to save them.
Well, it's a great question. And like when I talked to you earlier and I discussed what my background was as a judge and what my judicial philosophy was, and I am a huge believer in diversion programs and problem-solving courts because they work. And I had a front row seat to see that. Mr. James Belt, how are you? He's someone that's been in my courtroom as well, and he witnessed the program, not as a defendant, as a defense attorney. Mr. Belt, I'm very sorry. A very respected defense attorney. But I mean, he's someone that witnessed and had individuals that were placed in my felony diversion program. It was called the Atlas Mental Health Court is what we named it. And it was something that I saw firsthand every single day, that we were changing people's lives and we were keeping them out of the penitentiary by giving them the services that they deserve that we're not getting, and working with different leaders in the community to fix issues like homelessness and ensure that they were getting the medical services and counseling that they need, substance abuse counseling, to ensure that they were successful. So having that experience, I bring that unique perspective to this position. As a district attorney, we're planning to create the first diversion unit where we are actually dealing with these types of making sure that the district attorney has a present in every single problem-solving court that is in existence today down at the criminal courthouse, because let me tell you, your judges are doing a very good job. And they are, there's so many different problem-solving courts and programs that were created by these judges, and they are helping individuals become successful. So I think it's important that we have a presence in every single one of these programs and problem-solving courts, which that's the first thing we will do. And plus, we're going to educate all the prosecutors about what are these programs that are in place, and make sure that we're placing individuals that deserve to be in these different programs, and we're able to do that. If it's a plea bargain, if it's pre-adjudication, that's how we're going to do it.
I have a question at the mic here.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Brenda Richardson Rowe, and we know statistically that about 50% of jail inmates have mental illnesses. My question is twofold. While they're incarcerated, what type of programs are you going to continue, and what type will you initiate to serve their mental health needs while they're incarcerated? And secondly, how will you continue to network with the community upon their release to see that they're getting continued mental health services?
Well, and I think that that's important. You know, as a judge, I can tell you what I always did was to ensure that these individuals were identified, and if they were eligible, that they were released on a PR bond, or they were placed in one of the diversion programs. And actually, I was one of the first problem-solving courts that I opened up my program to all aggravated offenders. So we're talking about a lot of these programs that are in place that they won't be accepted if they have an assault case, or if they're not accepted if they have a felony possession case. Well, when you're talking about individuals that have been diagnosed with mental illness, most of them have assault offenses against their loved ones or individuals. And so we were able to really open and bring in the individuals that deserved it instead of eliminating them based on offense. So as far as individuals that are in the jail, what can we do? I mean, if they're pre-adjudication, I think we work closely with the judges and just make sure that they are placed in the programs that they need to be placed in, and we ensure that we dispose of the cases quickly. And we don't let someone sit in jail without their medication where they only deteriorate.
Thank you.
You bet.
Question was passed in. Are there advocacy groups in place? How can the community work closer with the DA's office to help with the same work? That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is there diversity in your office?
Well, I think, let me answer the last question. And Mr. Watkins, that was a good thing that he started. It was a much needed issue that needed to be addressed, and he addressed that. And we have diversity in our district attorney's office, and that is one thing that we are going to continue. I promise you that. What was the first part of the question?
First part of the question was, are there advocacy groups in place in terms of the community working with the DA's office?
Well, we actually have a Community Prosecution Academy, and if you want information, Rachel, can they come see you regarding that? Okay, so information on how you can work with the district attorney's office. But as far as advocacy groups, I mean, there's many different advocacy groups that work with the district attorney's office. If it's for domestic violence, anything, you can contact, and we'll make sure that you get the information you need to get you in the place.
Follow-up question, how does a person get their name on the grand jury list? How does that?
Well, that is something that's up to the judges, because the judges impanel the grand jury, and you can volunteer for a grand jury. And the way, a lot of times, if you're on jury duty and you go down, does everyone go to jury duty? Does anybody skip jury duty? That's the only way that we have good juries, is everyone goes to your jury duty. Make sure that you don't try to get an excuse to get out, because I know how important that is. But you go down to jury duty and let them know that you're willing to be a volunteer as well, and let them know that you're willing to serve.
All right, question from Mike?
Yes, my name is Frederick Ruffin. I've started my own organization as well. It's a Texas United Males Foundation. It's Men Against Legalized Exploitation and Stigmatism. The one thing we have to face right now is the reason why there are so many issues now, and the reason why there's so many police brutality issues and domestic violence issues, because a lot of times we're the unfortunate face of domestic violence now. Everything's been changed, with the Ray Rice incident, Adrian Peterson. It's been exacerbated to the point that black men are brainless, worthless thugs. They just want to terrorize everybody because they can't get a job. And that's something that we have to change. That's something we've done to ourselves. And we shouldn't have to have the law, or we shouldn't have to have police have to take care of and take control of what goes on in our house. Because we used to discipline our children when they was this tall, when they knew how to walk. You mess with something, there's some consequences. That's something we've stopped doing, and now we want to sit back and wait for the white people to come along and save the day. And that's the culture we need to change. That shouldn't be up to us. There's like over 500,000 911 calls done in Dallas on an average, just about every year. It could be from anything from dogs barking to I want someone out of my house to, and we don't handle our situations in the house without things getting out of hand and police got to come in. Then they have to take someone to jail. That has happened to me on more than a couple of occasions, and both times I had to fight to keep from going to prison. I was with the prison for 20 years on 2 separate occasions, behind 2 separate incidents, behind 2 separate women. Because all they have to do is call the police, and the police always come to their side, take their side, and on one of them, they say you cannot discipline children anymore. And I've actually found out that that's not quite true. Texas Penal Code, Child Welfare Section 37-102 says that any child left in your custody or your care can be disciplined within reasonable means. That don't mean get it done like we got done, because we know what it's like when we were kids.
So do I. My mom's here tonight to tell you about it. Because I remember saying things and I just got swatted across the mouth. Sorry, Mom. But I mean, that's the way it was, and it worked. She still gives me a look to this day where I just stops through my tracks, so I get it.
But what we need to do, we need to come some type of reform measures to where 911 calls and domestic violence related stuff is no longer abused. We need to start being punishment for people who abuse 911 for personal vendettas, for my man sleeping with some other woman or whatever, or vice versa. We have to take advantage and own up to that part. And, it's great we had this form, but as far as, the plea bargains and everything that you was talking about earlier, I would say about over 70% of most of the cases done in court never reach court because they always get played out. But when you have a public defender that's telling you that you can't afford an attorney, that you're a large black man, no one's going to believe you take this plea bargain, nobody's going to go to prison. That's not a good sell. And like I said, that's something that's on us because most of us can't afford an attorney.
Well, that goes back to what I talked about. I know how it's easy sometimes, and I'm not saying most of the prosecutors I know that are working for me, they want to help people. I know that because I know them personally. But sometimes it is just saying no to the easy plea bargain and taking that extra step, additional step to help someone get back on track is the only way to serve justice. I mean, and I know that. I saw that as a judge. And I believe that the prosecutors that work for me, they believe that as well.
But it also hurts the person in the long run when they try to get a job and try to get back on their feet.
I understand.
When you live in an at-will society, that they can pull up your background check even while the case is pending. You still can't get a job, and you wind up getting starved out, and you wind up perishing up in the justice system.
And that's why we address the easy plea bargain, because individuals that come in, it's easier to take 3 days in jail, and then they have that conviction on their record, and their lives are forever changed. And I never accepted plea bargain for individuals that were charged and they were just taking the easy way out when they were first-time offenders, because even though they were 18 and they knew that they could get out of jail the next day, I would explain to them, you have no idea what this means and what it would mean for your future. So I would only accept deferred probation. You know, it's a case-by-case basis. When we're talking about first-time young offenders who commit nonviolent offenses, then these are individuals that don't need to take the easy way. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we are offering plea bargains in these types of cases to protect everyone's rights. And I believe in deferred probation in these first-time cases. Or, you know, one of the things that we're looking at right now when I talked about the diversion unit is creating a divert court that addresses these issues at pre-adjudication. And we make sure that these first-time offenders, or sometimes if they're a second-time offender, nonviolent offenses, or third-time offender, if it's appropriate, that we get them in these divert programs and get them the help that they need, resources they need to make real change. Because putting someone in jail for 30 days, putting someone in jail for 180 days, sending them to the pen for 2 years when they're going to be out in 6 months, and they get out and they're going to be in a much worse situation than they were before. And if we can offer something to help them, but we have to look at these cases individually. And of course, you know, when we have cases that there are violent offenses committed, then maybe those individuals aren't appropriate. But the large population that we're talking about are folks that need help. I believe that. Yes. The large majority of the individuals that came in front of me as a judge were people that just could not help themselves and needed help.
Well, my last point.
Okay.
You can be brief on this last point.
Okay.
There's a long line behind it.
We have a criminal justice system that often violates people's constitutional rights as far as due process, equal protection by law, 14th Amendment, 5th Amendment, prohibiting abuse of authority in governmental proceedings. That seems to cover a lot of things because official oppression is only a misdemeanor. If a police officer commits a crime against a citizen, they get the easy way out, whereas we go into the gallows. And I think that's something else that needs to be addressed as well.
And that goes back to if any individual commits a crime, whether they're a police officer or not, they should be prosecuted.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Gerald Britt, and I'm a Vice President of the City Square. I want to, first of all, give you congratulations on the election. I know you'll be a fine and fair judge, not from the standpoint of defender, but from the other side.
What? Wait a minute. Both sides. Always.
But I appreciate your work there and look forward to what you will bring to the office of district attorney. One of the other things that I think that Mr. Watkins did was that was important was the unearthing of the DNA evidence.
Conviction integrity. Yes.
Right. And I worked with Senator West in his office to help pass the bill that became known as Tim Cole Act. Are you going to continue that office, and what are you doing to it?
We're actually continuing the conviction integrity unit. And actually, one of the first things we did after I was elected, myself and Mr. Worski, who's my first assistant, we met with Barry Scheck. And if any of you knows, he is a leader. And when it comes to these types of conviction integrity, he is the leader in the nation. And we are communicating with him to make sure we get the very best person to lead that unit. And so